back, everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend. It's nice and bright. We got our legs out. I need a tan.
My knees are out.
I'm very white. I need to get a tan.
My knees are out.
Need to get a tan. So, we're going to be talking today about a very hilarious subject that I think
though?
it kind of is, because a lot of people, the reason I think it's funny is because you know how people like to say the customer is always right.
They're wrong.
And I always like to call people out and say, no, that is not true. And I'll call you out on it.
Customers never right if they have to say the customer's always right.
Where's the manager?
Here.
That?
I am the manager.
Who was that? The girl was like, oh, you want the manager? 1 second. She goes
Oh.
under the table and comes back and she's like, what the?
That was a great one.
That's a good one. But kind of working, I've been in my same job for a long time. You having your own business.
And I worked in retail for like 59 million years.
Yeah.
Plus 8.
Yes. And then I remember you used to always tell me the stories. Where was it? It's the Sephora, right, that you worked at?
I worked at Sephora, I worked at Nordstrom, I worked at Bloomingdale's. I worked everywhere. I
Everywhere.
had hella jobs.
But where was that? The Sephora one?
Oh, Stone Ridge. in
That was like a
Pleasanton.
nice area, right? People
Yeah,
with
that
money.
mall is in the ground now, though.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, it looks like Hilltop.
Oh, the Pleasanton
Wait,
one.
Hilltop doesn't even
It
exist.
doesn't even exist anymore.
So it looks like
The Pleasanton
Concord.
one. Oh, yeah. We
It's
had gone
janky.
there one time. Yeah.
it was nice back in the day, though.
I think we went there a couple times when we were in high school.
Yes. No, you went with me one time and this lady was annoying us because we were in purses in Nordstrom and we were looking, just browsing, and this lady was like, isn't that a lovely bag? And I was like, yeah, uh-huh. And then she'd follow us in the counter, and then it got to the point where we told her we're just looking, and then I had picked up this little, I think it was a Kate Spade bag.
What did you do?
And it was tiny, and we were commenting on it, and the lady was like, it's so lovely, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it's the perfect size to put rocks in so you can bash people. And she just walked away. Because I was annoyed.
That's people doing their job a little too much.
Like, here's the fun
Like,
line.
I get it. And then, too, I remember you used to tell me, this is like in a night, well, at that time, it was a really nice area. And people would be shoplifting. And the ones that were shoplifting were people who have money.
Oh, yeah, that would happen all the time. I had to do
Yes.
LP. It was great.
I would be always excited. I'd be right there. But then you see that is like the worker gets in trouble, the employee gets in trouble if they go and say, no, you can't. And like, oh, you can, and they know because they're like, oh, you're not allowed to touch me. You can't touch me. I'm like, okay, you've done this before.
So things have changed because when I was 19, I used to do LP, and it was great because, you know, people were stealing like little lip glosses, lip liners, whatever, right?
What's LP?
Loss prevention.
Oh.
And so, sorry, see, I still know the lingo. Anyway, and so back in the day, we would do citizens arrests and lock them in the manager's office until the police came and then press charges. They don't do that anymore because, you know, people be getting shot in these streets. So it's dangerous. But yeah, no, we used to be like, so basically, long story short, when I was in school, I would obviously wear regular clothes and then change into my work uniform. They'd call me on the walkie, be like, well, come in the back and change. And I'm like, okay. And so I go put on my street clothes, and then I'd follow people around the store, and they'd think I was just shopping, like whatever. And then as soon as because there's 5 elements of proof. And then when they'd step out, I'd be like, come here. Can you step back in the store, please? And then mall security would be coming, and then my managers would come and were like, do you want to give us back the fragrance that's in your bag? And then they'd get all in your face or whatever. It's like, but open up your bag then. And then by that time, the police would have arrived and everything. So then,
Have there been any cases where you guys were, if you were kind of like, okay, you guys can give us the stuff and then you have to leave? Like,
no, one time the
Nothing,
Alameda
or-
County sheriff, his daughter stole some stuff. She threw it all over the floor.
she threw what?
Because she was so nervous and scared. But I'll tell you this much, when the police came and they found out who her father was, they were like, so is this really necessary? They were like, it's very necessary because we do it to
Yes.
everybody else.
Okay, and that's another one. I don't give nobody special treatment at my job, ever. And I know with us is like sometimes we like know each other, but this is your job. We're gonna pay you what we're gonna pay you. We don't be like, oh no, well, you know, we know each other for like 20 years. Are you gonna give me a hookup?
I just tell you I'm booked up that day.
yeah, yeah.
Because inflation is hard in these streets right now.
It's okay. So everything's expensive for a reason. I know everybody's like, oh, you know, this and that,
costs
but
money.
So parts costs are more expensive than before. I'm sure.
Oh, my
the
supplies
products
are
that
so
you,
expensive
yes,
now.
and then too, at one point, I don't know if they were on back order.
Yeah. can't get access to half the things, so I always have to be ahead of the game or whatever.
Yeah, and then just get, order a big order. My husband too, at his job, they're still waiting for parts that from December
That's annoying.
and stuff. So
And the way my clients be trying to come at me sideways, and I'm like,
I don't have, like, what would you like me to do? And just somebody yesterday who used to live where I worked and was just like, oh, do you remember me? And I was like, oh yeah, hi, how are you? Good to hear from you. Gave her the prices and everything, and then she was like, oh, okay. And then she called me back and was just like, oh, Elizabeth, is that for such and such? And I said, oh yeah. She's like, it's me. And I was like,
what's your
what?
point?
And I couldn't hear her, but when she was saying, it's me, and I was just like, I know it. You just called me. She's like, yeah, there's a way you can give me a discount, right? Just for me, we'll just know. And I was just like, hey, no. I don't give nobody.
Wait a minute, but that doesn't make any sense because, like, what?
Uh-huh.
The math isn't mathing. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. So that's why I was just kind of like, negative. No.
Gotta love visitors.
Yeah. So, so they come out with that. Or I've had people try to say, oh, I know you give, I don't give anybody special treatments. I try to help you, explain things to you, how to do certain things.
The thing that I don't understand about that is, for me, in my business, my profession, I'm self-employed, right? So, if I have people always asking me for a discount, how are you going to expect for me to be able to stay in business and provide you with the service I provide you with?
Okay, so that's in the owner's view. I'm not the owner. I'm the manager. So, no, what am I going to get?
And like,
I'm going to get fired.
Right, you manage, but don't have the authority to be like, okay, so you get to pay this. I'm gonna give you a discount. You get 11 cents off. You get $100. Like, you don't have the authority to do that.
And the thing is, corporate sees everything I do, like in computerized paper, all that stuff.
So they think you own it.
If this is not right, and I have to go through them. So this is not like, oh, okay, you know what, just be true. No, let me talk to them. Let me talk to my supervisor.
So this is what I'm like, okay, so let me go and get this approved. And then be like, oh, well, come back.
They said no.
They said no because the last time you were here, you were always late with your rent. And now you want a deal. Delegating which employees help the clients or customers that were shopping in the store, right? And so there's this woman that wanted a foundation match. She happened to be African American, but y'all see me, I'm pale. Right? Like, I am pale. Like, I hope y'all know I'm black, but I am pale, right? Fortunately, I didn't get any melanocytes. Anyway, but so I gave her, like, I was like, oh, Jocelyn can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And Jocelyn was this Filipino woman that was brown. Like, she was clearly darker than me, and she was one of the best, like, she had a really good eye, so she could color match really well. It's also hard because Bare Essentials at the time was only powder, so it's very hard to shade match people with darker skin tones because sometimes you look gray. But Jocelyn had all these little tips and tricks. I guess since Jocelyn was Filipino and she had an accent, this particular woman was like hella rude to Jocelyn, to the point where Jocelyn came up to me. She's like, I can't do this. And I was like, what's going on? And she told me, and I was like, oh no, this is what we're gonna do. And so then I was like, I'll take over. So I go over there and she's like, so because you my girl. I was like, I don't know you. And she was like, well, but she didn't know what she was doing.
She came out like that to you.
Right. She came out like, you my girl, because she knew I was black. And I'm like, okay, but Jocelyn's brown.
Darker
I'm not.
than me.
And like, you're a beautifully chocolated woman, but still, I would be more inclined, like, just based off of, like, what I see, I would trust the person that is closer in skin complexion to me than the one that's not. Not saying that we aren't all talented, but I would just think logically.
Right.
Kind of like, if you see someone with a pizza face, sorry. But if you see someone with hella acne and then you see another girl working in the skincare department that has clear skin, you're probably going to go subconsciously talk to the person with the clear skin, right? No
Not gonna be like, she's Latina, I'm going to go talk with her.
Right, it's weird. Like, I don't understand that. So then the lady was like, oh yeah, because we black sisters got to stick together. I was like, no, we don't. And she looked, because I wasn't having it. I didn't care. Yeah. What am I going to do, lose my job? I'm not. I stayed there for another year.
Yeah.
Anyway, But I had to check her because I'm like, you're being hella rude and disrespectful to someone that's actually trying to help you because you subconsciously think that she doesn't know what she's doing because she's not the same race as you. That doesn't make sense to me. She's closer in complexion to you. They were like 2 or 3 shades apart.
Yeah.
So I would trust her instead of me, and I don't even wear Bare Essentials. Like, I worked there, but I didn't wear their stuff. I hated that product. I just needed a job.
But you know how to do your job.
Right. And so, like, yeah, I'd fake it till I made it. But, you know, like, do you want me to gaslight you and be like, oh, yeah, girl, you look ashy and gray, but it looks good. Just put a little bit of warmth on it, and it's amazing. No, I'm not going to do that. And so but it goes both ways, because I feel like, you know how people expect you to be professional in your job?
Yes.
In that moment, she could have perceived me as unprofessional, but you were being an unprofessional customer.
Yeah.
Customers should have professionalism too. I don't care.
Absolutely. I agree the same way.
No.
No, and I don't care. Policy is this is a way you have to do it.
One time somebody asked me that. I don't even remember what job it was. I think it was at Bloomingdale's because, you know, fake-list celebrities would come in there sometimes. Anyway.
when they were podcasters or?
Yeah. Do you know who I am? And you know what I do? Do you know who I am? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay then. What's your point? You're going to get fired. Here's my boss's number, my corporate number. This is my full name.
Yeah.
Watch me be here next week. And I was.
They always say, like, I wouldn't talk to the supervisor, this and that. And I'm like, this right here, me. I never go above and beyond to the site supervisor or even corporate because they don't need to hear this BS. I only to where I'm like, oh, hell no. Yeah, go ahead and talk to them. And then when they put them in check, they'll be like, oh, yeah. So I'm like,
My other favorite thing was, so people would when I worked at Sephora
Sephora.
twice. I worked in their corporate office and I worked at their store.
Yeah.
So I was in the corporate office and I was working in the call center, like, to help and whatever. So there would be people that have these horrible experiences in the store for whatever reason. They were probably entitled and deserved what was ever coming their way. So they're like, I'm calling corporate. You call the call center. You're not calling anybody's boss. You're not calling anybody's supervisor, nothing. And they're like, I have a complaint. I was at the New Jersey Paramus, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm looking up the information because I don't know where that is. We're in San Francisco. Anyway. And so they're like, this one girl was so rude to me. Did you get their name? Oh, no. And they would just go on and on and on and on and on. And I'd be like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
And so then they were like, so what can you do for me? I was like, so we'll reach out to the store manager. We didn't. And what I can do for you, because I'm so sorry this happened to you. This was a horrible experience. I totally understand where you're coming from. So what we can do for you is give you an extra 100 points on your Beauty Insider account. What the fuck is that? Like, I get points for glorified samples.
Yeah, like they think they're gonna get discounts or
and
this.
these people would be so happy. Like, yes, that would be. And I expect to hear from the store manager within. I'm like, they should call you within 3 to 4 days. They never call because we wouldn't. They would just go to a queue and we just forward that stuff.
And that's why you say that because sometimes my boss will call me and she's like, oh, you know, somebody left a message. I don't know what happened. And then I'll say, oh, you know, it was this. They were upset because, you know, something went up. They were upset because they don't like their neighbor or, you know, whatever the case was.
Then buy a house.
Or they were upset that their car was towed because they were parked in a red zone, but it's my fault. So
you got to call the city now.
it's my fault on that because we've told them multiple times, but it still happens to be my fault. And then they would be like, oh, you know, she just doesn't like me, this and that. I'm like, you don't follow the rules. I'm like, it has nothing to do with liking. I don't have a problem with you. I could care less. Like, really? I'm like, yes. Am I supposed to care about you? Like, I don't care. Rules are rules. You're not supposed to park here. You keep parking here. It's my fault always. And then all of a sudden when the car is gone, it's like, oh, well, you know, I want to go ahead and talk to everybody. And so my boss would always, again, hear my story too, because that would be the truth.
And we're right.
And then finally she would call and be like, okay. Or one of them, I remember, tried to lie. And so my boss, it was another boss, and he was like, oh, you know, I told him, like, well, that's very weird and stuff. So then I was like, oh, no problem. After hanging out with him, boop, 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 called him, and I said, oh, you know, I just got off the phone with my boss. You lied. And I was pissed, and they were quiet. And I just said, yeah, that was false. That never happened. We always did A, B, C. And if you weren't there, that's not my fault, but we don't work around your schedule. You'll have to work around our schedule. We don't work for you.
So you know what I love now with this new generation, because you know us millennials is aging out and we're kind of old now. Gen Z, the way they're like, I get paid whatever is minimum wage.
His face.
Do you see that?
Yeah, you see his face? Does it look like it
Because
cares?
seriously, if you were in Starbucks, it's taking so long for you to make a coffee at home.
Yes.
You
And you know what? And I'm not mad at you, but then
$15.
there are some. So again, I always say, you know how they always say the customer's always right. That's
You're not.
incorrect. You're not. And I will let you know. No, that's not correct. That's not right. And the way you're talking to me, the way you're being nasty and this and that, no, that's not what a nice customer does. And you're supposed to have, I don't care where you are in the world, in my house, you're in my office, in my workplace, and you think you're gonna come over here and talk to me like crazy? No. Unless if I was nasty to you, totally understandable. But all these Karens that you see, it's everywhere.
It's a them problem. It's not.
It is.
It's not the employee's problem.
It is.
Usually they're just standing there taking all of the smoke, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like
or they'll
whatever.
be like, oh, you work at McDonald's. I see one lady you work, and you're at McDonald's eating their nasty ass food. So what does that have to do with
Man, the way I don't like your waistband tells me you always at McDonald's.
Exactly. Although there are some places where I'm kind of like, why do you work here? Like, you should be working in the back where you don't communicate with people. Because some of them, the employees, are just there, like you said, they just need a job. I just minimum wage. I just need a job, so I'm here. It's like, no. Then you're gonna be like, do you know who I am? I'm your manager. I'll beat your ass.
So I look at it this way, because I've worked a lot of retail, so I've encountered a lot of Satans.
Oh gosh.
A lot of
Oh,
them.
yeah.
And I feel like there's levels to everything. If you're having a bad day, because I'm a firm believer in if you're having a bad day, don't bring your bad day into the workplace.
Yes.
But also, if you're having a bad day, don't bring your attitude into my job. Period. Because, again, matching energy. So
Absolutely.
if you expect me to be nice to you, I expect you to be nice to me.
Of course.
You know, and so if you come in there, usually when I was working retail, I'm like, all right. And I just walk away because it is what it is. You know, if you need my help, you will come find me.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they would have a tantrum and I'm like, well, I told you if you needed some help, come find me. And I got other tasks that I can go and tend to.
And that's like what they taught you in 101 in class,
Right.
too. Since I was a kid, is you don't bring, just because you're having a bad day, don't take that out on me, and then don't take it out on others. And you wouldn't know when I'm having a bad day because it's not your problem.
Right.
It's my problem.
It's not your business, it's not your problem, and it is my responsibility to make sure. Like, okay, I have a perfect example. A few weeks ago, at my studio, I had a client who not only was late, she brought her dog, which I didn't care about that part, but she tied her dog's leash around the table in such a way where it created a knot. That ended up creating a domino effect of now I'm late for the next appointment who's already here because we had to get this knot because I'm not letting her dog stay for like the whole day. And so it was chaos, and she was like, can you help me? And I was like, I had to help her because I need you to get out of the studio. And like, I could have in that moment been so upset and let that irritate me and trickle over into my next appointment. All I did was like, hold on, open the door. I was like, hey, it's going to be a few more minutes. I'm so sorry. They're like, absolutely fine, whatever. And then I go and help get this leash untangled. Once the leash is done, okay, have a good day, whatever, you know, like, and I could have stayed annoyed because I get anxiety. That stressed me out because I don't like being late. Being late is like such an insult.
It's annoying.
I get so offended, so I don't want to do that to people. But then I told the next client what happened, and she's like, oh girl, you're fine. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. But everybody in that moment was chill and kept it. It could have been a fiasco. I could have gotten mad at my client for tying the leash up the way she did. I didn't. I was just like, okay, we got to resolve this problem, because what would the resolution be if I'm just yelling at her and like, get this off, you know, like, I gotta cut your leash, like, whatever. She still needs to walk her dog out of the place.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And so we all handled it well. She was so apologetic, and I was like, it's fine. Like, even though I was kind of dying inside just because of my anxiety.
Yeah.
But then the next client, I was like, oh, she could tell I needed a moment because she knew I have anxiety issues.
Yeah.
And I was like, now I understand why people are like, I need a shot. because I just needed a drink to calm my nerves because I was stressed out.
Yeah.
But I could have handled it in a way where everybody would have felt my energy, felt me be angry, felt me be annoyed, but I didn't. And then it all worked out and I got caught up later on.
Yeah.
So it was fine, but it
In that moment is.
and
yeah.
that's what people need to do, customers and employees. You don't
You
carry
need to-
the next
yeah,
thing over to the next
right.
person because that's not fair to them. They're coming in there expecting a luxurious service or whatever experience that you provide. And so I feel like professionalism goes both ways. I've had a lot of experience and a lot of years to master that, to not be able to carry it over
Yes,
to
yeah.
the next person. Because I see some people pouting. They had a bad experience with some random person. Okay, fine. Who are they?
Or I'll be, because I'm always going in and I can see the person is, but so I'm always, hi, how are you? How you doing? Even the security guard, when I walk into Ulta or any store, and I always see him, he's always, because say hello, say good morning, good evening, and with one, I even pause so they can look my direction, and I'll say, thank you, have a good one. Thank you for being there, for protecting us. I'm not gonna be like, oh, and sometimes I could see they have a stink face because of the people. They don't say hi to them. They don't say, they're not polite or anything. I walk in, and then even if I have my daughter, she'll say hi, because that's when you walk into a room, you always introduce yourself. You don't have to touch or anything. Just say good morning, hello. And I remember the security guard's face lit up. And even when I was waiting for him to turn around when I was leaving, and I was like, have a good evening. And then he was like, oh, thank you, ma'am, you too. And I was like, first of all, don't call me ma'am. But it was just like, that made his day. Like, do you know people are at work? You might see us, we might be the nicest person in the world, but we don't get the nicest people in
I
the
look at
world
it this
sometimes.
way: a Karen could be having her Karen moment, but that you don't know if that person that you're having the Karen moment on deals with suicidal ideation. It's just like, you are the reason why I'm going left now. You know, like, no, seriously,
Yeah.
babe, you never know what impression you can have on a person, and that's why I'm just like, I'm not about that life.
Exactly. With the security guard, with him, I could tell it lit up his day.
Mm-hmm.
And he even, smiled, felt good. And I was just like, he was probably having a bad day. And, hopefully it ends in a good note.
But I also do think there are specific people in the world that are entitled, so I don't think they know how to navigate through life anyway, but with an entitled aura
Yeah.
about themselves. And so, but I think this,
They've never been put in check or in their place,
Right.
some of those. And so when they get encountered, it's like,
Well,
I'm offended.
did you see that tweet? It's from there.
Some
It's-
baseball
Yes, about the pregnant
Yeah.
white.
And so, okay, first of all,
So this was Southwest Airlines. It was a baseball
it was
player.
Southwest. I didn't know that. First
I
of all.
believe it was.
First of all, why is your husband make you fly Southwest? Number one,
And
if
not
he's
even
a
for-
baseball player, just saying, and you got little kids too. Why wasn't he there? Y'all should have had a nanny. Whatever. I could go down the list because y'all got money apparently because you're acting like you do. By the way, he tweeted like,
He tweeted,
"I'm gonna
they
do something
made,
big
they
and bad."
made my 22-week pregnant wife pick up off the floor, get on her hands and knees to clean up after our toddler. And I would have been like,
Damn
yeah.
straight.
I do.
I mean, I look at it this way. Most people think that flight attendants are there to serve, like waitresses. No, they're actually there to make it so that if there's a plane crash, you get off the plane safely. They're actually there to make sure if there's anything that goes
cleaning
happen.
service.
Yes.
He said, because a person tweeted, oh, well, who's supposed to? He's like, the cleaning people that they hire. His response was that. So if I drop something, I automatically pick it up. I'm not going to be like, oh, where's the cleaning guy? You need to come over here and clean this up.
The only time, okay, so sometimes kids throw up on planes.
Yes.
My sister did that one time we were coming back from
I did that
Chicago.
all the time.
And she threw up on a plane. She was like a whole ass toddler. This was like 1991. Anyway, she threw up on the plane, and I remember it very well because my parents and we all stayed on the plane until everybody deplaned. I saw the back of the plane open up, and I was like, "Whoa, there's a door back there!" And the cleaning people and my mom literally was like, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, my daughter threw up. If you have like some stuff that I can put on there," they're like, "Oh, we'll take care of it." She's like, "No. I need a spoon. I'll scrape it off the carpet for you," and whatever. And so, like, that was her mentality versus I've seen other people. Like, I remember one time a little girl threw up at Sephora. This is back when Sephora still had carpets before we had all tile floors. Oh, it was a nightmare.
Ugh.
So this little girl, her mom was too busy putting on lip gloss, like, honey, and pushing the stroller. And the little girl kept saying, Mommy, I don't feel good. My stomach hurts. Mommy, I don't feel good. My stomach hurts. Mommy, I don't feel good. And the mom's like, oh, honey, it's okay. As she's trying on whatever. And I get it. Moms need a moment to, like, do whatever. But also your kid's telling you that they're about to barf. And so then the next thing you know, the girl goes, bleh, all over the floor in men's fragrance, right? And me and my coworker just standing there like,
Oh.
because I'm only like 19, right?
Yeah.
I don't deal with throw up. I don't even touch my throw up. And so she was like, oh my God, honey, why did you tell me that you were sick? Me and my coworker were just sitting there. So then we just got on the walkie-talkie. So a kid just barfed on the floor. We have anything? So then my manager comes in with paper towels. And my manager was extra nice for no reason at all. And she's like, it's okay, we'll clean it up. No, we won't. I'm not cleaning up. What if she has Ebola or something? I'm not touching her bodily fluids. And so then the lady's like, okay, thank you. And she leaves. She didn't even attempt to clean it up. She just apologized. The little girl was crying. And I get it, tend to your child because kids come first. Whatever. But yo, your kid just ralphed on our carpet.
No. And me that has a kid, absolutely, yeah. I would be on my hands and knees cleaning what I could. And what I couldn't, I'd be apologetic and say, I apologize. My little one just made a mess. I cleaned up as best I could. I'm so sorry. Yes, that is your job. Just because it's like if you spill on purpose on the floor and say, well, that's your job, pick it up. That's basically what you're trying. And then too, you're a baseball player. I mean, sorry, who the fuck are you? Like, who do you think you are that you have that, oh, no worries, no, it's common decency to say, okay, for example, hotels. I always clean the hotel room before I leave. I even make the bed.
Wow, you're nice.
Yeah, I am. And we fill up the trash.
I need money.
I always, well, because they don't clean our room when we're there. Like, we went on vacation, we're there for a week. We're like, we don't need anybody because I cleaned the room. But any trash we have, I'm not gonna leave that place a mess and be like, oh, why? Because I had family members that used to clean rooms and it was disgusting, and they would leave them 50 cents.
We seen that movie Blue Crush.
Yes, remember? They would leave 50 cents as change.
Stop it. Are you serious?
50 cents a quarter,
The
or
way I
nothing.
leave a whole lot of cash, nobody coming to my hotel.
Or nothing. With me, I always, when they would clean our room, hell yeah, give them $5-10 and stuff for the one day. And like one day, I'm like, yeah, they didn't do anything, but I mean, that's all what they're living for.
No, see, what I do is, so I've come to the point where I can't stay with people because they're messy. Anyway, but what I do is I collect all the towels, put them all in a pile together so you don't have to search the room for
Yep,
it.
me too.
I make sure all of the trash is in the trash can.
Yep.
Because you don't need to look for that either.
No.
Like, I know where the trash can was. It's a one room. So I can put the trash in the trash can. If there's any like hair or whatever from me brushing my hair, blowing it out, I pick all of that
Everything
up and
up.
throw it away. And I leave money.
Yeah.
And so, like, whatever. I might not make the bed.
Yeah.
It's just easier.
And I
to
don't
pull
make
the
it like
covers up.
perfect, but yeah, I'll just throw it just to get everything because we're like, don't leave no shoes, socks behind. Looking through everything, I pile the towels on the floor in the bathroom. I said, those are the dirty ones, the clean ones, don't touch them. The trash, I remember we had bought some stuff, so we have boxes and bags. And I'm like, there's a trash outside, go throw the trash outside. When we were coming back to our room, you would see people leaving all that shit outside their door for
That's
them to
weird.
come clean it. I mean, come on. And then I think one time at a hotel, Olivia was little and she was eating, and remember she spilled the food and it was carpet. And so I was like, oh crap. And I was like, oh, if we only had those mini, what's it called, portable vacuum cleaners. I cleaned that up as best that I could too. I wasn't gonna call, oh, could somebody come over here and clean the carpet because my kid just threw the rice on the floor.
That's weird.
No.
People do that.
But yeah, I saw that. That was that's their job. But you can help out a little bit too. That's like if you see a
I
piece
just
of
don't
paper
want
on the
people
floor.
thinking I'm fucking nasty. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be fucking nasty.
Yeah.
You know, like the way people leave stuff, like, because even when I share a hotel room, which I'm not doing anymore because I'm too old for all that.
Yeah.
But like, when I'll grab their stuff, put it in a pile and whatever, because like, again, I just make it easy for the person coming
Yes.
in. I'd rather you have to turn over my room and do the basics of like scrubbing the walls, cleaning the bathtub, whatever, and in 20 minutes you normally spend in there instead of like an extra hour because, you know, like there's fecal matter on the toilet.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
well, you know what?
nasty.
Who was wonderful? Who were they just talking about? Shaquille O'Neal. And I forgot who the other actor was, but waiters love them because they do really give a nice tip. And he's always like, hey, this is a hard job to do.
They're hella hard jobs.
And sometimes it's like 15, 20 of us, or it's just us, but we expect certain things, or they're extra. Their boss tell them, oh my God, this person's at the table, make sure you have it. So it's a lot of pressure on them, and so they're trying to do as best they can. And so when you give them a tip, they're even like, oh my God, holy shit. And then you'll see some other actors on TikTok. I've seen some people who said, these are the ones that are not very polite, don't give tips, and it's mostly the Kardashians too that I have
Interesting.
seen.
I don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, I saw that on TikTok where they're like, these are actors who are super nice.
So they appropriate culture, they appropriate everything else, but then they won't tip the cultures that they appropriate. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
weird.
And then even Shaquille O'Neal was just like, hey, it's a hard job to do. I understand. I mean, being a server, gosh, I couldn't do it.
I'll never do
That's the hardest job. I think I did it for a little bit when my parents owned a Mexican restaurant, and I hated it. I would like have to serve them or take their order, and I would be like, that's what my anxiety would be. I was like, I'll just clean the tables.
I can't do that. I won't do that.
No. My coworker now, that I have an assistant, she used to work at a restaurant, and the same thing. Sometimes it wasn't even the customers; it was the own employees that were feeling entitled and not feeling like they should do. What's the job of the manager? The manager is to manage everyone, make sure everybody's doing their job properly. Obviously, it's like, ooh, we're stuck here. Let me jump in so I can help, and then let's get the ball. Okay, everything's back to order. Let me step back unless they need me. It's an emergency. But your job as a manager is to step in to kind of put everything in order. This manager was like leaving, and so she was like, I would come, and so when the night shift was coming out, it was like, who's going to be working where? We had in the summertime. She's like, it's busy. Where? And she's like, oh, I have to call this person because I don't know where they are. Then tell me why this bitch takes a vacation, doesn't let anybody know, and so people that were supposed to be off that day were coming in to work that shift because it was a hot mess. So it's just not even so much the customers, it's the employees. Or you ever see those memes where they said that one employee that always thinks they're a manager and they're not, and they always like, oh, I did this for you, but make sure next time you do this. And they're just
So I low-key was that person, but because I knew everything.
because you knew everything.
I had
But
been
there
at
were
one
some
job
that-
forever. People would actually
Yes.
look to me for direction sometimes.
Yes.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you could do this.
And there's some that don't, like I said, the micromanaging. There's some that micromanage them just like,
Oh, I
got
don't believe
this.
in micromanaging.
Like,
No,
let
that's
me do
stupid.
this. Let me do it because that's bullying. I was telling you.
Yeah.
But if you see one of your employees like, you ain't doing this correct, let me make sure you do it this way.
The most I would do is when people would come to me. Well, okay, first of all, I had been a manager. I stepped down because I run my own business, so I got to get back and stuff. But like, when it got to that point where I stepped down, but I still worked at this place because the discount was amazing. Some of the girls still looked at me like I was a manager, which cool. I like having power,
And that's good.
But like, I would, if I knew like some of the girls wouldn't like to be on the floor, I'm like, okay, well help me unload this shipment box.
Yeah.
Okay, well how about you go and do this and whatever. And I pay attention as a fake manager because I wasn't. And see what girls liked what on the floor versus in the fitting room versus in the back and whatever. And I was just like, can I get so and so to help me? And they're like, sure. But it was interesting to see how some of the managers, the store manager,
Yeah.
didn't pay attention to that.
Right.
You should have been. When I paid attention to that, and so it would help diffuse situations when people got butthurt. But I still at the end of the day believe that customers, there should be a level of professionalism, and that's probably not even the right word to use for it, but like there's just a way you should carry yourself when you're out in public, because you look like a damn fool. And and now you're on TikTok, so there's that. But like,
not everybody has their phones because now everybody can record you.
It's
how crazy
weird
you
to
look
me
like.
to see that people will have whole ass meltdowns in the middle of like a restaurant or a clothing store or whatever, and I'm like, you chose public to be a fool? Like, just let your parents know that you're a fool. Nobody else needs to know that. It's weird to me, and so
It's that with even seeing recordings and watching like them screaming like a child on the floor.
get away from me!
Yeah, why are you recording me? Don't touch me! Don't touch me! They're like, bitch, I ain't touching you. I'm recording you. But it's crazy
It's
to me
weird
too.
to me because they want to insert themselves into something, but then they get butthurt when they've inserted and they get the clap back. Because
Yes.
I don't clap back.
Oh yeah.
But like, even as an employee, like there was one time I was working at Nordstrom. I was closing. This woman came in as they were making the announcement to say that we were closing. And I was on the 3rd floor, by the way, so you had to go up all the escalators and whatever. And she was looking through the this was the petite department, and so she was looking through the formal attire, which was only one rack, and we didn't have a lot of stuff. And she just kept going through, and so then somebody called, like a loss prevention person called me, because they helped escort everybody up there, like, get her out the store. And I'm like, okay, bet. And so then I go over there, and I try to kill her with kindness, and I'm like, so we're closing, can I assist you in anything? She's like, I have a funeral in Ireland to go to. I'll never forget this shit. She was like, I have a funeral in Ireland to go to, and I have a skirt. And I was like, well, do you have the skirt with you? She's like, no, I don't have it with me. My flight is in the morning. And I'm like, and so then she's like, it's not about the shirt, it's about the skirt, because she needed a shirt to go with this non-existent skirt. And so then she just like snapped on me, and I went, ooh, my head spun around, I levitated a little bit, y'all. And I said, look, lady, it is not about the shirt, it's not about the skirt. Because guess what? You came to a store as they were closing. I want to go home. My boss wants to go home. Everybody in the store needs to go home. And we can't leave until you get the fuck out of here. And she was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, you should be. Don't ever come at me sideways again when I'm trying to help you and you're not even helping yourself help yourself because you didn't even bring the skirt to go shopping with. Ugh. And then she's just left. And I was like, have a nice flight. And whatever. And then I was like, oh no, well, you're about to get fired. Guess what? I didn't get fired, guys.
And then it's just too because, okay, she's going to a funeral. She's in her feelings. Understandable. But that is not your problem.
I don't care.
And not your
People die every day. And I don't know them. And so I live my life. That's really insensitive.
No, but I mean,
it's the truth.
It's the truth. I lost my grandmother. I lost my brother-in-law. I lost people very close to me, and I had to keep, sometimes they'd see me and I'd be wiping away tears because I'd be crying, every little hour when I was by myself. So I was like, oh my God, somebody please come talk to me so I can just zone out and everything's fine and stuff. And it would be okay. And so when people say, and I said, oh, and they would ask, oh, how's everything going and stuff like that. And then they were just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But then it's just like, oh, no, don't worry. What can I do? Because I would leave the office. I would come back. I would be on a phone call just to get updates and stuff. So I would always tell everybody, I apologize. This is what's happening. If I'm not here, please leave me a message, whatever. And they were like, oh my God, Elizabeth. And I said, no, I still have to work. So just let me know what do I need to do. And people were so supportive, so nice and everything. Nobody, thank God, was just like, but again, some of them didn't even know. Right. You wouldn't even know until if you would have heard somebody say, is everything okay, Liz? Or, what time are you going to the hospital? Or can I go visit? And I would say so-and-so. And they would be like, oh, is everything okay? Well, no, yeah, everything's fine. Just some personal issues. Oh, okay. Well, you wouldn't even know.
You know what else is weird? When you say you're going through some personal issues and people are like, what's going on?
No.
None of your business, weirdo.
Mind your business.
Yeah. Mind it.
Yes.
It's annoying.
Yeah, there's sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I sometimes do that.
Oh, I don't.
But no, at work, when people come in and I could see that they want to talk. Like I say, I was like, no, what it is, I'm the therapist, I'm the mom, the dad, I'm the doctor and something. So when someone comes in and I can see it, I'm like, what's going on? You okay? And they're like, oh, this and this happened. Oh, it'll work out. And so I try to be as positive as I can. So when I see the tenant again or someone and I hear something and I'm like, hey, how'd the knee surgery go? Or, I heard I remember last time you told me you fainted in the store. How's your blood sugar been? And they're even like, you remember? I'm like, well, yeah. Because I still see them as a...
Well, see, but that's being more personable instead of nosy.
Yeah.
That's a respectful thing. So true story, sometimes when my clients, don't get mad at me, guys. But sometimes if they're telling me something and I really don't care, I just go, aw. And so now y'all know my secret. So if you ever hear me go, oh, I'm not listening to you.
And the reason I know when she listens to me, she stops. And girl, what?
Right. No, my reaction is not like, oh. I just know there's a pause. I should respond, oh.
Yeah, and another thing is before my assistant came, I was by myself. And then when COVID hit, I was really by myself. So when things
That's
were
amazing.
lifted and people were coming in, I was like, come talk to me. I'm tired of talking to myself. So
I do think COVID created crazy though.
I do. Oh, hell yeah.
Because the way
Times
I
three.
don't, no.
Yes, no,
I
times
just don't
three.
care.
Like people even, and then when COVID did hit, and when they were placing things on, we were putting stuff on the door, and people were like banging on the door, and I point where the sign was on my door, and they were just like, "Oh, I just need to ask you something."
Okay, I don't care.
So I'm like, "Ask me here."
So
Do you have a mask? And
When
no.
COVID hit, and I worked at this one retail store that shall name nameless because fuck them hoes. Anyway, not really. I like the girls that I work with, just -1. Anyway, they would keep me at the front because we had to count and make sure there was a specific amount of people in there.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming it's because it's me, and I am up for a challenge all the time, and I'm not afraid of no ghost.
Yeah.
So there was this one guy. He came in. We had a line. It was wintertime.
Oh.
We had a line. It was cold. People were waiting outside, and he just walks in the car. I was like, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir." And he tried to ignore me, and I was like, "Excuse me, sir." And he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for my wife." And I was like, "Okay, well, there's a line." But I'm just looking for my wife. Don't care. There's a line. You cut everybody. You cut about 50, 11 people. So you can go back outside and wait for your wife, or you can stand in line and wait your turn. I'm just looking for my wife. I'm not here to shop. Okay, so there's a capacity limit, and you are making it so that we're over that capacity. You need to step out of the store. But I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm following orders. Well, COVID's a joke. Anyway, okay, I'm not getting into you with all that. This is something that is an ordinance that the county has implemented. I gotta follow, because if the fire marshal comes, I'm gonna get yelled at.
I'm fired.
Instead of you. So, I'm gonna yell at you right now. Get out the store. And he was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I can."
Yes.
You gotta go.
And they just think like, oh, again.
I'm just looking for my wife. Your wife ain't looking for you. She's trying to shop. She's trying to lose you, so stay out in the cold. She don't want you here.
and
Get her your card.
Everybody,
And be
I
like,
would
"Okay,
see that
babe."
a lot. I would see that when we would go to the Disney store, and there was a line, and I remember I'd be like, "Oh dang!" And so I was like, "Better get that line before," because the line would get long.
Right.
And then you would see people like having an attitude, but then they were so professional, and they would talk to everybody in line. Hang on one second, guys.
We'd have a sign at the door that says
Yes,
the limit.
there's signs everywhere.
And you know what was crazy? Parents would see it, but they would have their little kid, and their kid would grab, "Mom,
Yeah.
here's a line."
Yes, yes.
"Oh, honey, and Mom, there's a line." And I'm like, "Yeah, your kid's right. We have somebody waiting in line, but you're more than welcome to stand there too, and I'll let you know when you can come in." "Oh, sorry."
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, "Thank you, little kid, for doing
Yes.
your job."
Yeah. Well, before my front doors, they didn't have curtains, so you would see us, and so we had signs there explaining that you had to do, but we had to keep the door locked, and then I would have to get up and then open it. So then I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, where's your mask?" And I have what was this one lady? She was just like, "Oh yeah, I have blood clots," and I was just like,
Okay.
okay.
So take a
Then
break
you can
there
call me on
and
the
wear
phone.
a mask.
I think she was on the phone with me, and I said, "Okay, well, unfortunately, you can't enter here unless you have a mask on." "Oh, well, and I said, "Okay, well, then you can talk to me. I'm talking to you on the phone. I can see you. What is it? We have nothing." And okay. And she ended up coming in, but I'm just like, what the hell does blood clots have to do with wearing a mask?
My favorite was when I'd be at the front, and people were like, "Well, I don't have a mask. This is a joke." Here's a mask. You're more than welcome to use it.
Oh, I've seen a lot of them where there's a good one where she was just like, "Oh, this is just the government can't do this," and they said, "Well, we have masks here," and she's like, "I can't believe it. I'm so offended." And they're like, "Oh, well, we can talk about it outside." Okay, and then I'll follow outside, and then they lock the door, and then they're like, "Okay, everybody go back."
My other favorite was people would be like, "This is public property." No, it's not. Leave.
Public
leave.
property is the street.
Right. And if it's because this was in Bishop Branch City Center, this one lady was trying to do something. She got all hyphy.
Where's that?
It's in San Ramon. And so anyway, she got all hyphy, and she was like, "This is public property." And they're like, "Actually, I know the owner of this whole space.
Property.
It's not public. It's private property. We're just gracious enough to let you here. So if you want to be with this attitude, you could take it into the parking lot." And she got mad. She threw her lunch down. She threw it at the security guard. It was wild. Oh, that was a time. But anyway, customer service is not something that is just where you can mistreat people.
No.
It is something that is... Good customer service should be expected and provided, yes. But at the same time, you should be able to reciprocate graciously a kind attitude. Because if you don't, you might catch these hands.
Yes, and that's where we like to tell you, you better mind your damn business and keep it going.
Yeah, because I will say bye-bye. Look
Yeah,
at my
we
back.
will.
'Cause I'm walking away.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. Until the next episode, have a good one.